Hey Yoda, you there?
Yeah.
Time for Picard.
Right. You know, Eggy, I never liked you. Welcome, Outposters, to another edition of Why is Modern Star Trek So Bad? I think, Eggy, you and I were a little taken aback by how much views and reception and feedback we got on our last one. So what I plan to do is finish out Picard and talk about the last episodes now that it's finished. Unfortunately, it's coming back with season 3 right to the face, like a hatchet to the face. It's coming, and we'll have to deal with that. But once we get done with Picard, I will start reading through the comments that we got, and then we'll finish it up with Strange New Worlds. And spoiler alert, I think you like it more than I do, but
Yeah.
I think we're both agreed that it is an improvement. Now, improving, eating dirt over shit is, I guess, an improvement.
Yeah, true.
So, I mean, look at it that way, but that's what we're talking about here. So, more notes. Took a lot of
Good
notes.
man. Yeah.
So, the first, when we left off with our oddball group of unlikable heroes, they were trying to rescue Rios from the ICE agents.
Yeah, that's right.
And they also, I think Agnes murdered the Borg Queen.
Yeah. I don't know what she did.
She blew her head off with a shotgun.
Oh, Christ, yeah, so memorable. Yeah, that's right.
So I'm going to go over some general thoughts here, then we can get into some of the nitpicky details. So I will say, believe it or not, that the rest of the series was not woke, or at least it wasn't overtly woke.
Okay.
It was stupid, but and in a way that makes it worse. You appear in the first 4 episodes to be saying, 1, this is what we think Trump's America would be. 2, we don't like immigration and customs enforcement. They're a bunch of cartoon villains who are as mean and horrible as every leftist thinks they are.
You eyeballing me, asshole.
The hell is wrong with you guys? Slap on a badge, put on a uniform, you think you can treat people this way?
Aw, don't cry, Juan. You're in luck. I got you a seat on that bus.
Sorry to say that the end of the line's gonna be the end of life as you know it. Adios, Captain.
And then they rescue Rios, and they never really talk about what the votes are. They never talk about Guinan's bitching about racism. It all just goes away.
Yeah,
I'm like,
magic.
if you were trying to say something, you didn't say anything. You just said, "Isn't this bad?" Okay, now on with the story. Well, what does that do about anything? When we say virtue signal, what people are mean when they say virtue signal is they're saying, I think I'm going to do a cheap symbolic gesture, like put a flag or a ribbon in my Twitter profile that shows I care without actually doing anything. All of these plot points that they're put into were the dictionary definition of a virtue signal.
Yeah. Exactly that.
And I'm like going, but you did nothing with them. You did nothing. with them. And it was irrelevant pretty much to the rest of the story. And then you stopped the virtue signaling and you just went with the rest of the story. Now, I'm not saying that the story was good. I'm just saying the politics just kind of went away, which just makes your initial looks into the politics look really superficial and cheap to me. Like, you don't care about these actual things. You just want to show that you care about these actual things.
Yeah.
That's how
this show was. No, I think you're exactly right. This show was nothing more than a 10-episode version of, like you said, pinning flags and ribbons and badges.
But only for the first
Facebook
4
profiles.
episodes. But I'm saying that was only for the first 4 episodes. And then after that, it was barely talked about. Maybe a little bit about climate change, but only as a plot device, not as a moralistic...
I think there were subtle hints in there. I think I got the impression as I was putting myself through it, how can I explain it? They were trying to get a message across, but I was too scared to do it so blatantly after the backlash from the first season.
When Guinan says they took off the hoods and put on a suit, like implying that there's all kinds of racism, where did that get touched on in any of the following episodes?
Well, no.
Guinan herself just flipped it off and she was like, I'm fine now. I'm happy. I want to help you, Picard. Her whole attitude just changed after that.
Yep. But again, it's like most people that have these beliefs don't have any logic behind their thinking. So they just blurt out these things and then they quite quickly forget about it before anyone can challenge their thinking.
Well, this is a Twitter mentality, right? You sit on Twitter and you make like these little 280 character little sentences that you think are profound, but you can't do things in a bumper sticker and you can't do things on Twitter that are actually meaningful. No. So it's now translating into how you do your writing and how you're trying to tell a story and bring up a point. There is no point to any of this. Like, I can respect it. Maybe, okay, let's say I disagree with your opinions on racism in the 21st century. But if you actually told the story and said, this is the way it is, and we're going to show how this racist is bad and how these things are bad, and as ham-fisted as it was, if you saw it through to the end, I could at least respect that at least you believe this stuff. But if you just say, look, isn't this bad? And then just forget about it for the rest of the season. I then question your honesty, your integrity, your convictions that you even have any.
Well, they don't have any, do they? I mean, it's just a classic case. Like I say, it's a Twitterverse. It's sound bites, little sound bites for people to pick nuggets up from, and then forget about it and move on to the next shiny object. Yeah.
So I guess I'm happy that it went away for the most part.
For the most part.
Then I tried to take notes as I was going along.
Yeah.
We got the Borg Queen trying to Borg everyone because she's all alone and wants the collective again, but she's in the 21st century, so can't she just contact the collective? I mean, I know that they had to set up a big, I don't know, thing on the Enterprise disc in 1996. You remember on the dish to try to contact the Borg in that century?
Yes, of course. And they appeared in Enterprise as well.
They did for like 5 seconds and some weird throw off. Enterprise is where they kind of got away from it, thankfully, at the end, but there was a lot of they were doing member berries somewhat in Enterprise. Remember the Borg?
Yeah.
Remember the Ferengi? You know, remember Klingons? There was a little bit of that, but it wasn't. They at least tried to fit it into canon, and this was. You know what? I'll tell you the truth. I think they ruined the Borg back in '96 when they introduced the concept of a Borg Queen. Anyway.
Oh, really? I
never liked it. The whole idea of just this hive mind that all spoke in one voice, that there was because that is what true communism is supposed to be, right? That we're all just drones speaking in one voice.
Yeah.
And the fact that there would be a hierarchy in Borg collective that makes it I guess, more relatable to us, but that you would put a queen in charge of the whole thing, I think just kind of, because then it becomes just one organism is what happens. And all you have to do is convince, which they did, by the way, convince the one organism to be good. And then the entire collective is good.
Who are you?
I am the Borg.
That is a contradiction. The Borg have a collective consciousness. There are no individuals.
But if there is no one brain at the top of it, I feel like the Borg are just far more scary and more of a, how do you convince billions thinking as one? And you can take away one and you can do a hue and get them out of the Borg collective, but once you're in, you're screwed. I never, like, you had to disconnect somebody from the Borg in order to make them to regain their individuality, right? It was all about a difference between individuality and being a drone, being part of the system without no thoughts, no nothing. And once they reintroduced individuality, which the Borg Queen is clearly the individual from the rest of the Borg, or is the Borg, however you want to call it, I think it took away all that, in my opinion. I never liked it. I still don't like it. I'm not saying that the Queens didn't do a good job who played them, but I never liked the concept.
I liked them because, to me, again, it's the whole insect world, isn't it? They're just like ants and bees. There's always a queen at the heart of everything.
If you see them as insects, but I always thought of them as, the insects are still organic beings, and they in their own way, they're still individuals. I mean, a bee will go a long ways away and has to do his own thing, right? And he's not being mind controlled by the Queen. That's not what the Borg was. The Borg was, you were a transistor on a motherboard. And that to me was just like freaky.
I don't know. I thought the idea of the Borg was just to constantly expand their awareness and their technology, which is why they assimilate people.
They assimilate everybody, but then whatever makes those things unique are subsumed by this machine.
Yes.
Right? And you become nothing. You become just, you're like your hand or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
You have no independent thought anymore.
So they suck out all the good bits.
And you become just a drone. And with no Queen at the heart of that, that just gave me shivers. And I think it was a comment on socialism, probably not overtly, but it was to me, at least I interpreted it that way, as a comment on socialism, communism, being a part of a core. And you could say that maybe about being a corporate drone. I think there is, when you become part of a big corporation, you become kind of sucked into this giant thing that has one motive, profit, and selling shit and whatever. And there's not a lot of independent thought. When you get into bureaucracies in the government, it's even worse. And I saw the Borg as the ultimate expression of that. Nobody does anything. Nobody makes a decision because in socialist, communist corporations, even, a democratic bureaucracy, nobody makes a decision in any of those because they're too afraid of being called out.
True.
And then the hive will come against you and cut you out like a virus, right? And if you don't have anybody at the top of that, like that's the ultimate expression of a giant corporation or a giant government or a giant bureaucracy, something that has way too much power, is the Borg, where nobody would actually speak out. They all speak as one. It just creeps the fuck out of me. And the Borg Queen takes away some of that.
I just think, don't forget, they always put across as well that there was comfort by being part of the Borg. Because when you looked at Hugh or Seven...
That's the gross thing about it. That's what scares me about it.
They fought to get back in there. So, I don't know. I liked the idea of the Queen. It didn't offend me. I thought it was quite a nice little take on it. I think it's been overdone since then, because obviously we had a Borg Queen in Voyager. We've now
Yeah,
got
well,
with
what it did
Picard.
was it just gave you a villain to fight. It just gave you a super villain to fight. And the Borg, without that super villain at the helm, I don't know. We can disagree, but of course I'm right. So Alice shoots the Borg Queen in the face.
Yeah, this is episode 4, isn't it? We're still on episode 4.
Yeah, and the Borg Queen, what happened? Like, I hate the editing in this whole thing. Like, they don't let scenes play out. They keep cutting back and forth, and then doing minor flashbacks and things like that. It really makes me nuts.
You know why? Do you know why, Yoda? Because the people that watch it, this whole generation, have got, again, this Twitter, TikTok attention span.
Well,
so they can't do long scenes. They have to do quick scenes, cut it, and move on to the next one to grab their attention. Because they're like,
I realize there's another reason why they do that.
Go on.
So we'll get to it in a minute. Okay. So she gets taken over by the Borg Queen, and I guess endorphins make assimilation go faster, but when she has negative thoughts, she was able to take back a little control of her body.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you think when those guys were getting assimilated by the Borg at first contact, were they feeling an abundance of good feelings?
Exactly. They're laughing their heads off about it.
Or were they like, Captain, please? The guy has to shoot him right in the face.
Help! Please, help!
That's it. Kill me.
I mean, it's like, do they know what the whole idea of endorphins and whatever the opposite of endorphins, stress hormones and all that would affect assimilation? There's never been anything that would lead you to believe that would be a thing.
Well, I've said before on other conversations we've had, the Hive are obviously like today's left, where there's this mind mentality, this hive mentality, and you can't stray away from it. So for me, when I was watching this, and she's got these endorphins.
My drink, I haven't actually had any yet.
Oh, there you go.
It's pretty sad.
Right, so I was saying that obviously I've compared the Borg in the past to the current liberal hive mind that we're going through.
Yeah.
So when I watched this, I did laugh, because I immediately thought that they're actually telling people that if you come to the hive mind, it's actually quite fun, it's enjoyable, it's happy emotions. Rather than, as we've had in the past with First Contact, and obviously, what was the one where Picard got assimilated? I can't remember the name of it. And as you said, Joe, it's horrific. The idea of taking your mind away from you and your individuality is just scary beyond belief.
Yeah.
So they're trying to flip it on its head to say, yay, come to the hive mind. It's actually good fun.
Well, maybe the endorphins and everything, but I think that's what they were definitely saying at the end when Agnes and the Borg Queen became Agnes Queen or Yaz Queen. but maybe they were trying to have a kinder, gentler Borg at the end. Yeah, but I mean, I don't understand. Like, they end up in the same place. Was that Agnes? Because Agnes was on the ship in the first scene as herself before they went back in time. But was that still Agnes with the face thing?
You're asking me to put logic to this stupid show. I've no idea. I don't think they even know.
And so, like, if it was her, is it the brightest move to just start sending Dr. Octopus technicals all into your things and not show your face? And be as aggressive as possible, then say, I want provisional access to I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Unless that was the Borg Queen, and then but I don't think it was. I think that's why they intentionally covered her face.
I mean, we're still on episode 4. We've got to get to 10, but
yeah, okay.
The fact that
I'm skipping ahead.
The Borg can communicate with Picard, and no doubt they can still communicate with Seven. So the fact that she had to appear physically on the ship rather than just get her message across, we're bearing in mind that the whole message was about joining forces to become like a force for good. So her idea is I can't stop laughing because it's so shit. Go on and start shooting everyone. It's like, what?
I rewatched this trying to take notes, or at least the last several episodes.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, there was a lot of filler, I noticed.
Oh God, yeah.
And it was very disjointed on how it decided to, like, okay, we're gonna have an episode about where they are now, and then the Borg come up, and then that's the inciting incident. Okay, fine. Second episode, we're in Nazi Confederation.
Yeah.
Third episode is getting back in time, and then we're going to talk about ICE, and then we're going to talk about racism, and we're going to talk about, I don't know, Trump's America. I don't know what they're doing. Then they get rid of all that. They decide to have an Ocean's 11 episode.
Yeah.
Where they got to sneak in, and we find out that it's Rene Picard, his ancestor, who has depression and clearly has some mental issues. So, naturally.
So we're now at episode 5.
Yeah. So, whatever episode. What I don't know.
Yeah, it's 5. I've got notes.
So then they go. So she's going to a shrink. The shrink turns out to be Q. Has he been her shrink this whole time? And if he's trying to stop her for... Okay, let me try to sum this up, and then we'll go into the details. Yeah. Rene Picard is an astronaut who has a lot of mental difficulties. I'm not saying she's insane or anything, but like severe depression, that kind of stuff.
And anxiety, yeah.
Anxiety. So clearly she'd be at the top of going into space. They wouldn't have noticed this, I can't imagine that she would have gotten this far in an astronaut program, but let's just say for the sake of argument, fine. She's going to go to Saturn, and she's going to find an alien organism that she brings back to Earth that fixes all the climate change. And if she doesn't do that, then Noonien Soong's great-great-grandfather, who is a geneticist, who likes to make Sojis, or whatever her name was. He likes to make little girls because we can clone now, so I don't know what the problem is. We don't, but we could. But they keep dying. I don't know why he keeps trying to make girls. Improve the human condition or genetics or something. And then he since that doesn't work out, and because if he stops Renee, then he gets to build a particle shield over the planet that is still in use 400 years later, or 300 years later, because we apparently never figured out how to improve any technology ever. And also, by doing that, we all become Nazis. If somehow that tracks. And I'm like going, okay, that's the plot. That's in essence what the plot is. Get Renee on the ship so she goes there and stop Soong from stopping her, so that we don't all become Nazis. Okay. In the meantime, so they do the Ocean's 11 episode to make sure that Renee doesn't get interfered with by Soong at this gala ball. Right?
You're now on episode 6.
Is that 5 or 6?
Yeah, no. So 5 is 5. If we go back a bit, 5 is all about Renee, where the woman who's...
right, and we meet Talum, who is Laris.
Yeah, who's not a relation because she's human, but not really human, and she's watching over Rene Picard to make sure she continues her mission. Now, if we can go back a little bit, Yoda, this is what made me laugh.
My brain is already broken.
Yeah, I had to keep taking notes because it was just so crap. Right, so this is brilliant, right? So when gets on it, what's her name? Who's the woman at Picard's? The Romulan woman? I can't even remember.
The one in the future is Laris. Right, I only know that because I wrote it down. And the one in the past is Talum.
Right, so Talum.
Can I make a mention here how so many family trees do not fork?
I take it my face looks familiar.
I feel as if I'm looking at Data.
I am Guinan Sung. I created her.
I am Data. Permission to come aboard, sir?
This is my science officer, T'Pol.
No need for an introduction.
Dr. Sung, you were running genetic experiments with a privatized military organization.
At all? Not to quote Jeff Foxworthy here, but I mean, Guinan Sung, a ancestor of his that was in Enterprise, this one, Adam Sung, they're all the same cloned guy. That is a very that is not a forking family tree, guys. And now Talum and Laris look exactly alike. I mean, Soji looks like the day. Jesus. I mean, they used to get different actors for people. How cheap is this?
Well, very cheap. Very cheap. But if you go back, if we're talking about Renee when Talon or Talon, whatever, who cares? She's telling, I've got my notes here, so I keep looking to the side of my screen. Right? She was telling Jean-Luc Picard that by the age of 10, Renee Picard had taught herself to be an expert sailor by the age of 10. By the age of 11, she was a chess master, fluid in something called dynamics and Cantonese. By the age of 16, she was at university. And within a couple of years, was a test pilot.
Just say stunning and brave. Just say stunning and brave.
It's unbelievable. So she accomplished all this by the age of 16. And then, by the way, on top of all this, she's always suffered from anxiety and depression, which, like you said earlier, wouldn't put her right to the top of NASA's want lists.
Let me tell you something. People that suffer, and I know people, and I'm very close to people who suffer from some depression and everything.
Yeah.
It does not make you a go-getter.
No.
I'm not saying it's a comment on their potential or their abilities. I'm saying that it puts you in bed, or it makes you lethargic. It makes you... I'm sure not everybody, I'm sure somebody in the comments going to say, yeah, if it's controlled, sure. If it's, and maybe she is controlling it. I didn't see her taking any medications or anything, but I'm saying that to have this kind of accomplishments does not speak to somebody who suffers from a lot of depression and anxiety.
Not to the level that she's meant to suffer from. And again, I can also speak from first-hand experience in this industry, in this field. So, so before you put all your comments in there, I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I have anecdotal but pretty good evidence that it's doesn't quite work that way. And that's not again. Don't misunderstand me. I'm not commenting on their potential to be that way. I'm saying that's the point. That's why depression is so crippling. That's why they call it crippling, is because it stops you from doing and reaching your potential. That's the sad part about it. So also didn't. So all of that is her depression. I'm sorry. Do you have anything more to do?
No, well, all I was going to add is when she's telling Picard this, he's like, oh, she sounds amazing. The interesting thing is, and I watched this the other day just because I knew he was doing this video, I watched Star Trek Nemesis. And there's a part where Picard's talking to Shizon, and Shizon is asking Picard about the family history of the Picards.
I think of myself as an explorer. Well, we always explorers. I was the first Picard to leave our solar system. It caused quite a stir in the family. But I'd spent my youth
looking up at the stars, dreaming about what was up there.
about?
New worlds.
Your family history is very important to you, isn't it?
What? Oh. From being a small child, I can remember being told about the family line. The Picard who fought at Trafalgar. The Picard who won the Nobel Prize for Chemistry. The Picards who settled the first Martian colonies.
And he's talking about how he was the first Picard to leave the solar system and it caused up a bit of a stink and all that. Well, I was thinking, if you're... And we know Picard's proud of his family heritage. We know that. Surely he would remember Rene Picard, who was responsible for finding an alien organism on whatever planet it was and bringing it back and cleaning up the oceans and fixing the skies. You'd remember that.
The Picard of Trafalgar came to mind for him. He likes... well, Picard's a horrible sexist, so he doesn't care about the women. Look, that I'm gonna give them a pass somewhat on that. This is a problem when you introduce some backstory in any long-running show, property or whatever. Nobody's ever heard of this person, and you have to try to retcon all this stuff. It's just a hazard of it. There's so much more to be pissed off about. That's like the least of my worries. So
I just think, mate, that if I had an ancestor who was that significant in human history, she'd be pretty much at the top of my list whenever I was talking to anyone about my family history.
So Picard talks to Renee, and he's like a security guard, like a 97-year-old security guard, and
so I mean,
you don't look like a security guard. It's like, well, it's like, Jesus, you couldn't come up with anything else. So he gives her a pep talk and tells her to look up.
Any suggestions then?
Look up. Can you tell me about that ship?
And this is all tied into his history with his mom, who hung herself. Now, in order to find out the backstory of how her hung herself, we have to have Data run over Picard with a car. So he goes into a coma for no reason. And because they keep saying there's nothing wrong with him. He's just got a little bump in the head. We don't know why he's not waking up.
Yeah.
He's not waking up.
He was an android anyway.
Well, is he? Because he's the other Picard now from the other timeline?
Oh, I don't know, mate. Honestly.
Here's something that a couple of comments I saw that I have to say, they're right. Although I do not credit the creators for being that smart.
I know what you're going to say.
We said that Guinan should have known him because he met her back in 18. But since this is a divergent timeline, he may not have gone back to the 1800s, which means this actually is the first time. So you got us on that one.
Yeah.
All right. Good job, guys.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Our commenters are smarter than we are sometimes. But I also don't believe that they knew that.
No.
He could have mentioned, because if they did, he could have mentioned it. He could have said, we met in 1800s. Like, I never met you. He's like, oh yeah, divergent timelines. And that's it. That's all he would have had to say. And I'd be like, okay, they make it a mention. They know. That would have showed effort, not laziness. So anyway, Picard gets Renee to fly the ship with a pep talk with a lot of poetry. Then we go into. Then he gets run over by the car, so Talum has to go into his mind.
Yeah.
And we get an utterly disposable episode. And this is where they're tying Renee's mental problems with his mother's mental problems. Now, I don't know if anybody remembers, but when in the first season of Next Generation, which a lot of people don't remember, because if you're going to rewatch Next Gen, you're probably skipping the first season. But there is one where they first bring on the Traveler.
Yes.
And everybody starts having, because thought, and they go to a place where thought and reality are one. And so if you have stray thoughts, they actually come. And he meets his very, very old mama.
You look tense, Jean-Luc. Come and have a cup of tea.
No.
I'll make it good and strong, the way you like it.
Maman?
Serving tea. She seems like she's got it together, wise and everything. It doesn't
What?
look like a younger, mid-30s mom who hung herself.
Okay. Well, do you know what?
And you can't chalk that up to the different timeline.
Again, it's just lazy. It's laziness.
So all this time we didn't know that Picard has been unforgiving of himself and unwilling to find love because his mom hung himself when he was a boy because he let her out of the room that his father put her in, which he does to protect. We assumed, or wrongly assumed, that his father was a wife beater.
Yeah.
And that was not the case. And his father comes back in this mindscape thing as a counselor or something.
Yeah, like a Starfleet counselor.
Yeah, or something. And then Talum shows up. It's all there to say, oh, she hung herself. And Picard let her out of the room.
Yeah.
And that just made me think, didn't in the original series with the Garth episode that they'd come up with something that fixed all mental disease?
Captain's log, stardate 5718.3. The Enterprise is orbiting Elba 2, a planet with a poisonous atmosphere where the Federation maintains an asylum for the few remaining incorrigible criminally insane of the galaxy. We are bringing a revolutionary new medicine to them, a medicine with which the Federation hopes to eliminate mental illness for all time.
I'm an asshole. I know it. I'm an asshole.
I'm trying again. He's trying to justify this. It's like trying to figure out why you got a litter tray for your cat and it decides to shit on the carpet rather than litter tray. There's no justification in it. It just did it, and that's what this show's like. Let's just do it. It's literally a litter tray.
So then, okay, so the Picard wakes up. Now, at this point, Girardi has gone full Borg Queen. And she's running around the city, busting windows. And eating batteries. And she takes a guy, but she's not able to. Now, I said I hated the editing. And you said because they're schizophrenic. It's not all of it. So that night, Girardi Queen goes to that bar. She busts the window, realizing she's getting strong. She takes the guy. This is at night. So then in the morning, hours later, Rafi and Seven come. They go looking for her because they find the camera where she was, and they ask the bartender. It's like, oh yeah, she went around the corner. Now this was hours ago, right? So then they
he's only just cleaning up the glass as well, like 12 hours later.
Yeah. So
and notice as well that Seven takes the beer bottle out the bin and throws it on the ground because it will help her track Girardi or whatever her name is.
I don't know.
But what I mention is because Rafi smashed the police window, didn't she? She smashed the glass in the police window car that we spoke about last time.
Yeah, they love glass in this show. I don't know why.
Yeah, well, it's the whole glass ceiling thing, isn't it? It's the whole.
Oh God, I hope that's not what it is.
You know it. Well, Girardi smashes the window, Rafi smashes the police car, and Seven smashes the glass bottle. So you got three women smashing glass, and it's all centered about. And notice that Rafi, Picard's mum.
I need more to drink here.
Got it. Rafi, Picard's mum, and Renee, and Seven all have mental health issues. So again, it's the heart. This is what I was saying to you when you're saying it's not woke. I'm saying it is woke, but it's more subtle.
And I fucking hate you for putting that in my head now.
I've seen it smashing mental health issues, all because of the oppression, and it's just, again, it's as subtle as a fart in a lift. It's ridiculous, or an elevator, as you called it.
So they go and they say, "Where'd she go?" Right? I want to get back to that editing thing. They say, "Where'd she go?" So she went around the corner. Then they cut back to Picard and Talum having some sort of conversation about what to do next or something. And then they cut back to Seven and Rafi, who are now coming around the corner, and there's Girardi and the guy. Like, was she there all night with the guy? And nobody, now there's a dead, like, it was like they just walked around the corner and there she is. And you don't notice it because of the edit.
She left here with a guy. Big, red beard.
Which way?
She went that way, turned the phone.
Thanks. People are so easy when they trust you. I knew exactly what to say to that guy. It's like his face was a map. No wonder I'm president. Shit.
I didn't notice it. To be honest with you, I think Red Letter Media mentioned this. And so I paid attention to it, and I realized why that might fool you. It's because of the edit, because of the lying piece of shit edit that they put in there. I was like, oh my God, that is exactly what happened. I couldn't believe it. So she's eating batteries. Yeah.
Because that's not going to affect your human DNA. Fucking car battery acid.
Yeah, they said lithium ion. They talked about the lithium ion. So there's a stabilizing. It's a stabilizing metal for high energy capacitors. Yeah, that's true for a battery. That's not true for people. That's not how it works. You can't just inject them with mercury and then the Borgification will work better. You'll kill them. That's not, I mean, I'm like, they say things that sound smart, but they are, you put any thought into it and it's just dumb. I like, the technical aspects of this show are pretty flawless. The original Star Trek and Next Gen had all kinds of technical flaws. Special effects, sets that had a cheapness to it. You could see them wiggle. Even Next Gen, nicer as it was, it had problems. But the stories were, not all of them, of course, but they were generally flawless. They had a beginning, a middle, and an end, and they had a point to say, and they took care of they paid attention to the details. Now the technical aspects are flawless, the special effects, the lighting, the sets, but the plot, the character decisions are just nonsense. Yeah. And that's the difference. It's like it's in the prettiest package you can put it in. And even the acting is good. I'm gonna give the woman who plays Girardi credit. She did a fantastic job. Going from her to the Borg Queen and back and forth, she was great.
She was probably the best one in this show, ironically enough, considering I didn't like her in the first season. She was the best one in this. She was the one that actually displayed some acting chops.
Yeah, when she switched to the Borg Queen, it was absolutely 100% authentic. I was shocked at how good it was.
Yeah, she was very good.
The character is better this season. Last season, she was a terrible, terrible character. They were all terrible characters, except for maybe Rios, who didn't have much of a heartbeat in the whole thing. They were all a little bit better this season, except for Rafi. She's terrible.
Oh my God!
I can't stand her at all.
Do you know what she looks like? She looks like she looks like a reptilian overlord, like a shapeshifter.
She's the lizard people, crab people.
Crab people, crab people, crab people, crab people.
So I kind of got off of. I put.
Well, you was talking about the editing. I was talking about just the whole production value in general. Because after obviously you have Rafi and Seven have a little lovers tiff in the alleyway, and then Girardi attacks Seven, and then she attacks Rafi, And then she walks off, and she walks towards the camera. So the camera's on the floor, and she just walks off. So you can see her boots in her red dress.
Yeah.
And it's just one of my sons done like a director's course at school when he was younger. And watching this episode, it looked like a high school production. It was just terrible. It's slow motion and bad camera. I mean, listen, I'm not a director, but I know what I like. And the whole thing just looked absolutely terrible. It looked like cheap BBC crap.
I so miss just slow establishing shots. Just a picture of the Enterprise just sitting there or slowly going across orbit. I could die happily never having seen another sweeping camera shot that spins around and goes into the exhaust pipes and into the engine room and showing about how cool their technology. Just give me a nice establishing shot.
Yeah.
I love the motion picture where they just go around the Enterprise nice and slowly and just take it in. I love that. It's just nice, slow. I don't need these insane shots that they show that
again,
are designed to kind of like they're shiny keys to kind of distract you from the fact that the plot is nonsense.
Well, again, it's because they're catering to an audience that have an attention span of about 8 seconds.
So so now that she's the queen, she has to get her stuff ready, and they have to go back to the chateau and to the ship, and they need to put Guinan and Picard away for a bit. So they have a discount Fox Mulder just take them, find them, take them, and then let them go.
Okay. Yeah. Who's just sacked instantly on the spot. He works for the FBI and he's just sacked instantly on the spot.
It was a completely useless, unnecessary scene.
Yeah, and did you notice in that scene as well? Well, actually, sorry, can we go back a little bit? Because that...
Sure, why not? The show doesn't give a shit about continuity. Why should we?
Fuck, Well, the cheap Fox Mulder guy?
Mm-hmm.
Because he arrives at the bar, doesn't he, where Picard and Guinan are having a little chat, and she's like, oh, the bar's shut, and he comes down and wants a drink, and blah, blah, blah. Well, he shows them the video of Picard materialising in that alleyway, obviously, which is his fixation with aliens.
Right.
So then all the FBI turn up into the bar, they're holding hands up. So Guinan's first response to the FBI turning up is to run behind her bar and try and reach for a shotgun. It's like, what the hell are you talking about?
Not to be too current year with it, but probably not a good plan for a black woman in LA. Just saying.
But talk about the disrespect for authority as well. We're the FBI, hands up, don't move. It's like, oh, I'm just going to go and get my shotgun. What?
Not a great plan.
No.
So then...
Scene, it zoomed in on Picard in the interrogation room with Guinan. And did you notice the handcuffs on the table with smears of blood all around them?
No, I didn't notice that.
Yeah. So there's blood and the handcuffs are sitting on something. But obviously Picard and Guinan, they're not injured. So it's a reference to, police brutality in interrogation rooms and everything else. So again, going back to the whole, it's not in your face woke, it's just subtle woke.
I mean, it's tough watching this show, guys. It is so tough.
It's hard work. It's hard work.
So then they get loose and they have to have a showdown with the Borg Queen, and they bring a holographic Elnor who knows exactly what the real Elnor was thinking just before he died.
Yeah.
Whatever. So Rafi is able to have a closure moment with Elnor, which makes no sense because holograms don't work that way, but whatever. And then Agnes is able to merge with the Borg Queen, and they take the ship, and all the other Borg guys. Half of them are dead, or most of them are dead. I mean, do they not change the timeline? Yeah, they were so worried about Captain Christopher back in the original series because, he doesn't contribute anything, but his son did. You think any of these people that maybe they might be could cause a problem with the time. I'm just saying.
Well, because, I mean, again, we're jumping all over the place, but I think it's the only way you can address this show, because Rios wanted to stay behind, didn't it? And they was like, oh, you can't because you'll affect the timeline. Yet they're shooting people left, right, and centre.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't know. So then they get done with that, and then they and Soong is there. I forgot about this. Soong is in France.
Yep.
With Picard and everybody, right?
Yep, and a little army.
So they have to get back to, I assume, Florida. They didn't really say where the launch was. But I'm going to say Florida, okay?
Makes sense, yeah.
So it certainly is America. And Florida would be one of the closest places to France, at least, East Coast, right? And that's still an 8-hour plane trip, right?
Yep.
The gang gets back because they have Talam's Blue Mist transporter.
Yep.
No problem. Maybe it's in L.A. I think it is in L.A. because so much of it took place in L.A. So I think that's where the launch is, too, now that I think about it. But even so, they get back immediately with the transporter. Sue gets back at the same time.
Do you know what I feel like? Actually, I feel like I'm analysing a child's hard work and trying to make something great. And I'm sitting here as a teacher going, yeah, that's really good. However...
Soong goes in to try to stop Rene Picard, and he has one of those Mission Impossible skin, I'll touch you, you get poisoned. But Talon disguises herself as Rene and takes her place and dies. Why she couldn't just punch the fuck out of him, I don't know, but fine. She dies, fulfilling her mission. He fails. She goes to Saturn. And then Q shows up and sends them all back to the future, where they, just before the self-destruct, they cancel the self-destruct, and then Agnes reveals herself, although Rios isn't there anymore, and neither is Agnes, or she's now Borg Queen Agnes. And then they all work together to stop the gate, and then the Borg are going to sit there and be watchers of the gate, and they've been given provisional access into the Federation. And all's well that ends well, and Eleanor's alive, because why wouldn't?
Well, you've got. Well, before you do that, you've got the lesbian kiss between Seven and Raffi. So we had that.
That was.
It's like
it's all tactical bullshit at that point.
Then you had the big reveal of Wesley Crusher turning up to take Sun's daughter, the one with the big chin. She's now recruited as a watcher, so Wesley turns up, who looks like a 50-year-old version of himself, but still on his teenager's body. I mean, I suppose the bloke doesn't get blown over by the wind.
I forgot. Yeah, Wesley shows up.
Wesley turns up.
So
with his massive head.
You know
his
what?
Body.
I think we've gone through the plot. I just wrote down odd questions here.
Go on then.
And these are just questions as I went through, just going why. Some of this I've already mentioned. Data's family tree does not fork. It's just one big trunk. I mentioned about the woke stuff. Why does Talam look exactly like Laris? She didn't have any kids, I don't think, and died by the end of the show. And then why did she use people like meat suits and then never use that again? You remember how their eyes would turn?
Yep.
What was that all about? And then why is that a thing? And why was it never used? Couldn't she?
Well, why not use that? Why not use security guards to stop Sun approaching Reno?
There you go.
There you go. And also, when she revealed that she was Romulan, Picard goes, "Oh, you're Romulan. You might be an ancestor."
Yeah. No shit.
Yeah. Fucking hell.
If the Picards have a deep history in France going back hundreds of years, the Picard at Trafalgar and all that kind of stuff, why is his ancestor in America?
Yep.
If Agnes has been the Borg Queen since 2024, who is clearly in this timeline now, who invaded the Federation in First Contact?
There you go.
Or is this now an alternate timeline?
Well, that was I was going to say. This is like, so we've got the Kelvin timeline, so this must be the Agnes timeline.
Every time I saw Rafi and Seven together, they acted like children throughout most of the show.
Time travel rules? We're about to lose Rios forever. What the hell is wrong with you?
We'll get him out alive in a way that doesn't screw up the timeline even more than it already... Give me the tricorder. You're being too careless.
And you're being too goddamn careful.
They acted like bickering siblings instead of trained Starfleet people.
Every episode that Raffi has been in, she's holding on to emotions.
Yeah.
Try not to cry, fighting back tears, getting upset over everything. You know, it's just ridiculous. And I said in our last show, you know, what they've done, you know, it's not just the destruction of masculinity, they're destroying femininity as well, because 7 of 9 back in the day was absolutely outstanding. And now they've just taken her and just gone, no, she's one of us now. She's now just an angry lesbian.
When they went to rescue Rios from the immigration bus.
Right. Go on.
They do some sort of electromagnetic pulse that stalls the bus.
Yep.
This is, Seven says, because something that's not moving is vulnerable.
Something that's not moving is vulnerable.
Yes, because a fighter jet is infinitely more invulnerable than a buried, non-moving bunker. This is an example of dialogue that's supposed to sound cool, but actually has no logic or sense.
Mm-hmm.
Something lightweight moving at a high rate of speed is a lot more vulnerable in a lot of different ways than something that's hunkered down, you know? That's why the Battle of Helm's Deep wasn't on, you know, hang gliders. It was in a fucking bunker that didn't move and was full of stone, right? It's much more safe. So when they say something like that, it's like it sounds cool, but these are just dummies that are writing things that sound cool because it has a big word in it.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's the kind of stuff that I always heard, that I go, if you just talk about it for 1 second, it's like, no, that doesn't make sense at all.
No, I missed that. I mean, I was too busy focused on the fact that
it sounds like
they released loads of illegal immigrants into the country, not knowing any of their background history, or the question of why they're illegal.
They are so worried about showing the illegal immigrants that are getting out, all these good people that were just taken out by, and then they write little throwaway dialogue that you go, that makes no effing sense. You're not even trying. You're just saying something that sounds like profound, and it's not. It's dumb.
Yeah.
How long is Cube and Renee's psychologist? If he's trying to get Picard to forgive himself, why work against himself? And I can't believe he put on that stupid Freud accent.
I want you to be kinder to yourself, Renee. Fear does not have to be your enemy, Renee. Fear can be your friend. Telling you that perhaps you are not ready.
That's not a therapist. That's Q.
Come on, Delancey.
Oh, yeah.
That was silly. 10 years ago, I might have been skeptical about someone with a history. Well, yeah, I might have been skeptical with someone with a history of depression could work her way up to a Saturn mission, but then there was a diaper astronaut lady a few years ago.
What's that?
Shuttle astronaut Lisa Nowak was having an extramarital affair with fellow rocketeer Billy O.
Billy O had moved on to someone else. And when she realized she couldn't get Billy O, her thought was, maybe I take this other person out of the picture.
Scandal Made Me Famous says Lisa's jealousy fueled a 900-mile road trip that earned her the nickname the Diaper Astronaut.
Go on.
A lady who was in the astronaut corps went on like she was in love or cheating on her husband with some other astronaut in the corps, and he didn't want to be with her anymore, and he left, and she got into a car and she took a road trip to try and chase him down and she wouldn't stop to the point that she was wearing a diaper and pissing and pooping in it so she didn't have to stop.
Fucking hell.
That's real life. I wish it wasn't. So, I mean, I'm like, well, maybe Renee isn't that far of a stretch then, I guess. So, Sung makes clone girls that can't stand the sun. I mean, is that a real thing even? Is that a real disease?
Yeah, I have actually seen.
I mean, the way they portrayed it.
No, the way they portrayed it is ridiculous. But there are things where their skin is very vulnerable to sunlight, like vampires.
You know, we used to complain that all the aliens kind of looked alike except for bumpy foreheads. Now they are like, we're not messing with all that makeup crack. We're not even getting different actors. I mean, the Talim Laris lady, they came up with that thing to hide her ears so the actors didn't have to mess with that crap.
And did you hear what she said as well? When she went, where's my notes? It was like, I've got to cover my ears up now so people can't see my truth. What do you mean my truth?
I'm like,
it's either true or it's not.
Don't you wear don't you turn on a device that hides your truth all goddamn the time? But now you have to put
she wore it out. She wore it out because she used all the power.
Says she turns it off, right? And then she puts the hair over here and says, now I have to hide my truth. I'm like, what the hell was the machine doing all that time? Was it not hiding your truth before? What are you talking about?
What is all this my truth? Surely it's just the truth. It's either true or it's not.
It's just camouflage because this is before first contact. We don't know about aliens yet. It's a perfectly reasonable thing to do. You're an alien on a different planet. You're not hiding your truth. What the fuck are you talking about?
I'm talking about the phrasing of it. What is my truth?
That's what I'm saying. It's like, what does that mean? And I'm like, well, if you're hiding your truth about being a Romulan, now, like she says, now I have to hide my truth. I'm like, the machine was doing it already. What do you mean now? You are already. This is a dumbass, like, my truth. This is something that they think is really profound. But it's like when you insert it into dialogue and situations that makes no sense, you are already hiding your truth with the machine on the whole time. What the fuck are you talking about?
Just this whole my truth thing is just basically that people can make up shit and go, well, it's true because it's my truth. No, it's not. It's the truth.
Why did they
It's either true or it's not.
Why did they take Picard to the lady doctor instead of the ship?
No idea.
There's a line about a ship isn't a doctor. And this was just hours after Girardi saved some policeman except for his spleen, which was in a box. And she's not even a doctor. But
is this the French
with
guy?
Picard, they can't take him to the ship because he's not a doctor. I'm like, do you really want a 21st century doctor when you have fucking machines that do it way better? Even the 21st century doctor is going, I wish I had some of your stuff. You guys have no idea how this would be so much better.
That was the French detective, wasn't it? Who was investigating.
Yeah.
Yeah, who apparently had the subtle wokeness, had a nicotine addiction. The bloke likes smoking cigarettes. He's French. The French love smoking cigarettes. It's not an addiction. People just do stuff because they like it.
Well, nicotine, whatever. The defibrillator you mentioned, is this a robot Picard?
Yeah.
Is it a robot Picard or is it a... If it's a Picard from the future, then would he have gotten into a fight with the Nausicaans and gotten his heart punctured and had to have an artificial heart? I'm going to assume no. So, if he's a fully human Picard, then why did the defibrillator just freak the fuck out when they tried to hit him with it in the lady doctor's place? And it's like, are they saying he is an android? And if he is an android, why was he an android in the other alternate timeline?
I don't have answers, mate. I'm not even going to try and make out I have answers.
Or if he is an android, then what's the big deal? Self-diagnostic repair, he'll be fine.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. If he was an android, I think he'd probably withstand being run over by a car going about 10 miles an hour.
Yeah, no shit. Well, I know they said he's basically the same as he was before, but he doesn't
Clearly
have
he's not.
strict. But I mean, like, well, yeah, but this is a different timeline Picard that happens to have the regular timeline Picard's memories in his brain. So why is the defibrillator acting differently with him? I talked about Soong as a geneticist, so why do those skills transfer to giant shields? And why does making a shield make us a Nazi state? I still don't understand that. Guinan has a Q bottle that she screams at to summon a Q.
It's like the shot. It's like a Highlander or something, the quickening.
So when I say the truce was made over a bottle...
You mean the moment itself is still inside?
The moment is inside the bottle. How does a moment end up in a bottle? What are you talking about? It's just gobbledygook, and that makes no sense. You know how they summoned Q before? Picard would just get really irritated, and go, Q! That was it. That was it.
And now he's got to be summoned by like a genie.
Oh, now we got to scream at a fucking bottle. What? That has a moment of time stuck. What?
It's just total shit.
It didn't even work.
No, because he turned up a few days later in the FBI thing, didn't he?
Rafi at one point says, because like we got to stop the Borg Queen, right? So she says,
right.
It's 2024. People have trouble with revolving doors. They can't handle a Borg Queen.
Who has trouble with revolving doors? What are you... Is this an epidemic I'm not aware of? Or does a Ivan Goldsman get all his information from humanity from old Pink Panther movies? What is she talking? People can't handle revolving doors. What are you talking about? We've had revolving doors for 150 years. We're fine with them. They're good. We're good with them.
Yep.
What are you... I mean, it's just kind of like it's supposed to be funny or something, but it's just like, what?
Do you think that was a nod to what was the Next Generation episode? Was it the Royale? Where you don't think it was an effort because they had trouble getting out the door, didn't they?
Yeah, but we didn't have trouble getting out the door because they didn't understand how doors work. They had trouble getting out the door because it kept them there. Because they had to follow the stupid novel or something.
I just wonder if it's something in their logic that's implying that revolving doors causes a problem. I don't know.
So not only does Soong get back from France in amazing record time, he also has the time to slap together those drones into whatever bombs they were, program
what was all that?
Program his voice to pretend that he's there, and come up with the skin thing with the poison to stick, and then travel all the way back to wherever they're launching from.
LA, let's say LA.
And then when Rios does, like, I get that Rios is a crack pilot and all, but I don't think that necessarily transfers into controlling 4 drones. And if you watch when one of the drones, like he smashes 2 of the drones into each other. Okay, I accept that. And then the third drone, was it 3 drones or I don't know, but one of the drones, maybe it was 5 drones, maybe that's what it was, but he smacks 2 of them into each other, and luckily debris from the one hits another drone by the luckiest of shots ever. I'm like going, can't they just I would have been much better if they said, oh, we rewired it, we hit the self-destruct, they all blow up. But no, it has to be Rios doing some insanely lucky, really too hard to believe piloting skills. And a chip shot that happens to get the last drone.
Do you know how I reckon that was written? I reckon they worked out to kill. I reckon they'd killed all 4 drones, and then someone went, shit, one of the CGI guys has actually made 5 drones, and they're like, can we get some shrapnel? Will shrapnel get rid of it? He's like, yeah, that'll do. It'll take me an hour to CGI that up.
I mean, Soong is like Tony Stark. It's ridiculous. How does hologram Elnor see Girardi? If you look very close, if you watch it again, there's a scene where they have Girardi and the Borg Queen standing next to each other. Now, of course, it's a symbolic thing, like they're having a conversation.
Okay.
Girardi looks at Elnor and says, Elnor. And the Borg Queen's looking over too. And he talks to her like she's there. Now, this is supposed to be in their head, you know? It's like a representation.
Right.
But the hologram answers her and says, yep, I'm on it. And he takes care of it.
How may I be of service?
I encoded the digital key in the safest place I could find. Him. Hiya, Elnor. Let's play keep away.
With pleasure.
I'll have to, well, I'm not going to watch it again. I'll take your word for it.
I'll edit this shit in, so don't worry.
Yeah,
You'll see it. Because I'm like going, how does he see her? 7, they aren't people, they're Borg, so kill them all. Yeah, weren't you a Borg?
Yeah. Imagine if Voyager had that same attitude.
Pretty unsympathetic, I'll tell you what.
Yeah.
Why does hologram Elnor need to dodge bullets?
No. No, perhaps they're hologram bullets, I don't know.
Hologram Elnor somehow, I think I mentioned this, hologram Elnor somehow shares recollection of the real Elnor's final breath.
Yeah.
How?
Where from? Hold on, wasn't he killed when they first went back to
when they went back in time, but they were on the ship when he died.
Oh, okay.
But somehow they apparently have mind recorders, neuro mind recorders running at all times in all parts of the ship. So that if something like that happens, we record that shit when he dies. I don't know. That just sounds creepy as hell to me.
Yep.
To catch. Oh, here's Sung. He says,
I'm no stranger to lost lab rats. To catch one, you don't follow it through the maze. You force it to the surface.
To catch a lab rat, you don't follow it through the maze. You force it to the surface. Have you ever seen a lab rat maze? What surface? What BS dialogue are you coming through here again? You have a lab rat in a maze, like a typical lab. You can pretty much just reach down and pick them up.
Yeah, pretty much. I'm bearing in mind the technology Sung's apparently got at his disposal because he's some super genius as well.
It's
pretty
BS,
sure he'd have a... Yeah,
it's BS dialogue designed to sound smart and profound. Just like something that's not moving is vulnerable. Yeah, I know fighter jets, when they're in the air, they move fast. They have better chance of dodging stuff and everything. But when you say something just profound like that, I can poke holes into it with other comparisons. You're not that profound. You're just dumb. Now, to keep from being completely assimilated, you just have to have bad feelings. How would anyone ever get assimilated? Healing 7 gives her back the exact same Borg implants from the other universe.
Oh.
Why?
Yeah.
Why? Why does healing her spleen mean that she has to have an implant above her eye?
On her eyes, exactly.
And the thing on her hand. Why?
On her hands.
That's bullshit.
People won't recognise her without all her stuff on her face.
Well, it doesn't matter. They sent them all back to the regular timeline where she had her old Borg implants anyway. It was no point. There was no point.
Yeah.
What are you trying to say? What is the point of doing that? Why?
Why take them off?
Well, they took them off because she never got assimilated in the first place in the Confederation. I'm okay with that.
Right.
Her parents never got assimilated. They never studied the Borg. They defeated the Borg. Whatever. I'm okay that she has never been assimilated in that timeline. The question is, I guess it's symbolic of her accepting that she was Borg and that's a part of her. Okay, I think she did that years ago, for one. And two, you could still do that without actually having to do something as nonsensical as give her the exact same Borg implants.
Again, this doesn't make sense to me because If she didn't get the Borg implants because she was never...
She was the president of Earth, remember?
Yeah. So how come Picard... How come Picard is still some sort of robot thing?
Well, yeah, don't hurt yourself now. You're gonna have an aneurysm.
And then he wouldn't have had the false heart from the thing that you mentioned earlier, from the fight with that creature in Enterprise. Oh, it's hurting my brain.
When Data picks up I keep calling him Data, Soong picks up the phaser, and he says, I bet you don't have to be from the 24th century. He says, no, but you do have to have the right DNA, which I never knew was a thing.
No.
That you had to have certain DNA to fire a phaser. I'm pretty sure that was never a thing. But let's say that it is. If a phaser goes on overload, it blows up. Usually that's like, it'll take out half the ship.
Yeah.
It went up, and it went up like a little firecracker.
No. But you do need to have the right DNA to unlock it. You hold it too long and, well, boom.
This is the cap. There's a phaser on overload, Mike. The blows will take out the entire deck. The blows will take out the entire deck.
He threw it up in the air.
That's it.
It didn't even break the windows in that fucking arboretum.
Yeah. Very much like a miniature nuclear device or something crazy.
Yeah, if it goes up like that, like, I'll admit they've been a little... Like, there was the City on the Edge of the Forever where the bum picked up a phaser, he didn't know what he was doing, and he just vaporized himself.
Yeah.
But there's other things like a phaser on overload. They talk about it in the next gen timelines where it's like, oh, it'll blow up half the ship or it'll put a hole in the side, you know. So I admit that they haven't been completely consistent on that, but I'm pretty sure in any case it shouldn't just go up like a little puff of, like a poof.
Yeah.
Soong doesn't know enough to keep his data backed up to the cloud or tape or a few USB drives.
Yeah, it's all just on his hard drive.
She erases it all. It's like you don't have one. He has one backup, and it's a folder that says the Khan Initiative.
Oh.
Remember Khan? So, yeah, I mean, in the end, it's just bad storytelling. It's some of it's woke and some of it's we went on and we went through the writers last time. We said, well, this is woke and that's woke, and, you know, we went through all that kind of stuff. And I'll tell you what, I'm gonna go through comments.
Oh, look, before you do that, I've got some picky bits as well.
You go ahead. I'll bring
get
this ready.
Okay, so first of well, I've got loads. First of all, obviously, I've got the big black hole thing. Oh yeah, so obviously the reason they had to go back into the past and back in future is you had that big nebula black hole thing that was going to swallow up the whole galaxy. But no one had detected it at all in the galaxy. No one had even seen it. And only the humans and the Borg can protect it. So surely, if the thing was that dangerous that it's going to destroy the entire galaxy, they would have called on the help of the Romulans, Ferengi, Vulcans, Klingons, Cardassians.
I am initiating a fleet-wide yellow alert. Starfleet intelligence has picked up some alarming reports from the Romulan Empire. It appears that at least 30 warbirds have been pulled from other assignments and are headed for the neutral zone.
Is there any explanation why they would make such a blatantly aggressive move?
Our operatives on Romulus have indicated that there appears to be something happening in the neutral zone, specifically in the Devron system. Our own long-range scans picked up some kind of spatial anomaly in the area. We can't tell what it is.
What are our orders?
This is a very delicate situation. I am deploying 15 starships along our side of the neutral zone.
I don't know. I mean, I'm like spatial anomalies in Star Trek. It's like there was the one at All Good Things, you know, that happened to be in the neutral zone, so the Romulans showed up, but it kept getting bigger and bigger as you went back through time, so you'd wonder why they only noticed it, but it was 3 different times. I mean, we detect a spatial anomaly. They send out one ship.
But
I get what you're saying.
Supposed to be it's supposed to be so dangerous, though, Yoda, that it can destroy the entire galaxy, and yet they can fix it with half a dozen starships.
Did they know that until the Borg Queen told them that?
She told them that. So what do? They basically rip off Guardians of the Galaxy and all join together and form some sort of force field.
Yeah, I like how when they contacted the Excelsior, Cadet Elnor is the one that answers. It's like,
yeah,
really, would not the captain have answered, or at least the communications, or something like those lines? I don't know, the security officer, but no, it's Cadet Elnor in the lower decks. He's like, just so that everybody can say, "Oh, Elnor's alive! Yay!"
Yeah, exactly. So that was Guardians of the Galaxy. Weren't they called Guardians of the Gatekeepers or Gatekeepers of the Galaxy or something as well? I was like, my God, this is just terrible. Who is the Borg? They wanted to be gatekeepers of something, wasn't it? Guardians of the Gate. That was it.
Something like that.
It was Guardians of the Gate. So they basically used a Guardians of the Galaxy styled shield, and they're now called Guardians of the Gates. And I'll tell you the one thing that really wound me up was there was Picard, Seven, and that bloody Raffi woman. And Picard looks at the captain's chair, and you're like, oh, actually, we're going to get to see Picard in the captain's chair giving out orders again rather than just dithering around like an old fart. And he gives it to Seven because her expertise in dealing with the Borg is more superior to his.
Right.
So they couldn't even let Picard sit in the captain's chair. They couldn't even do it. He had to be subordinate.
Well, that was a setup and payoff. Seven says, yeah, Janeway fought for me to get into there, and then they said, oh, here you get to be captain now. The field commission out of nowhere. I get the setup and payoff. I think, though, there would have been a lot of, like the first officer and whoever else was on that ship would have been like, what the fuck?
Yeah. Admiral Picard. Let's get him in the chair to tell us what to do, not bloody Seven. And then, obviously, you had Guinan's speech at the end where she was talking about fixing the oceans and all that. And then he was like, what happened to Rios? Oh, he died in a bar fight. Oh, right, yeah, typical.
Just like he lived.
Man. Typical man.
Like, he died like he lived in a bar fight. I'm like going, he lived on a ship with a bunch of his own holograms hiding from the world. What are you talking about?
Is it really too painful to let him live a nice life? He stayed back in the past because he fell in love with this woman and wanted to raise this kid as his own.
I guess he was much older when that happened, but I don't know.
Regardless, man, let the man live a happy ending.
Look, they've for all intents and purposes killed off at least 2 of these characters, so they're not going to show up. So in the 3rd season, so that's good. Yeah, no, I get you. What else you got?
When the Borg Queen Agnes, when she took the ship and flew off in France, just like a nice little Sunday driving pace, just like that.
Might have wanted to turn on the cloaking device.
Yeah, or maybe use some power and get out of there quickly. I'm sure the people in France are sitting there going,
"What the fuck?" Yeah, because it was broad daylight at that point. I was like, "What the fuck is that?"
True. It just panned us off.
I don't know how French people talk.
I've got Agnes's CGI face, which just looked like something out of Scorpion King.
Yeah, I wasn't pleased with the makeup job with Agnes. She looked better with her hair. Let's put it that way.
It just looked awful.
I do want to give her credit though, as an actress. As an actress, she didn't write her lines. She has to deal with what she's got. She did a pretty damn good job, and she's got a nice set of pipes on her. I'm not talking about her boobs. I'm talking about her singing.
Oh, I thought you were talking about her legs.
No, those are stems.
Because there were a lot of we call them pins over here. There was a lot of legs in the episode where you said it was like Mission Impossible. It's also a bit like 24 with a countdown clock.
No, I thought
she was singing.
Her singing was nice. It just wasn't necessary. I mean, a lot of this wasn't necessary. So no. I don't know. So So let's go through our comments. Those of you who watched our last one, I really appreciate it. So I think we could. I've been trying to comment back on where I can, but it's been a little overwhelming, and so I thought this will be a good time to go through it. Oliver Schnell. Okay, I agree with you that Picard is a terrible show, but some of your points don't make much sense. First of all, the transporters had a range of 20,000 kilometers or more, so beaming from France to the U.S. should actually work. Not through the planet when they're crashed. It's through atmosphere that they do this. You're talking about beaming through the mantle and everything else. And they always said, okay, you're deep underground, so it's going to be tougher. And even then, it's only like a few miles underground. We're talking about through this, almost through the center of the planet, or through thousands of miles of mantle and stuff. And they established that you need relays for communication. And this is an energy beam that also would need a relay to go into a satellite and then to come back down on the other side of the planet. So I think my point still stands there. The point with Guinan not knowing Picard is debatable. One could argue that the change in the timeline 2024 prevented the events of Time Zero ever happening. Hence, Picard never went back to the 1890s, never met Guinan since they went back from already altered timeline.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I think you are not the first one to mention that, and but I'll give credit. I think you guys are right on that one. I think we completely muffed the alternate timeline in the past thing. So you get yourself a cookie on that one.
Good job.
Okay. Jason says we have to keep watching it, so they don't have to. We did. I hope you appreciate that.
Yeah. Thank you.
Abdel Abdelkadabrazil. Abdelkadabrazil. I think it's abracadabra, but with a zill on the end.
Right.
And I like the wordplay. I like what you guys say about dropping the F-bomb and the childish behavior on Star Trek. I remember a TNG. See, look at this guy. He's getting his point across. So he's not having to sound like he's, pretending that he's smarter than he actually is by using a bunch of thesauric words. Just shut up.
Get to the point.
I remember a TNG episode where Picard goes home to visit his family. At the end, he and his brother engaged in a fist fight that ended up in the mud. They both started laughing, and they finally buried the hatchet. Was it childish? Yes. Did Picard engage in an act of violence? Yes. But it was in his free time. He was at home. He was just Jean-Luc. He was not captain at that time. That was also a family dynamic, and Picard had it was one of the best episodes of the series because it dealt with the aftermath of a horrible episode in his life. One thing that I disliked about the original series, and I understand why it was, but Sitting at the Edge of Forever, they should have had a follow-up. How did that affect Kirk? That kind of thing.
Which one's that? Is that the one where his brother dies?
No, Sitting on the Edge of Forever is when he goes back in time, Edith Keeler.
Oh, Joan Collins.
What?
Is it the one with Joan Collins?
No. Joan Collins. I'm sorry. I thought it said John. Damn accent, man. You got to work on that. Yeah. So his brother knows him in a way that Starfleet wouldn't, and his colleagues wouldn't. And he was pushing him to get him to face this emotional scar, this trauma that he had been through. And so it was earned. It was earned because of the 2 episodes before it, and because we've gotten to know Picard a little bit, and it was character development that really, really worked. When I talked about I was going to mention this in Strange New Worlds, but I'm going to bring it up now. When I talked about the informality of the way they talk on New Trek, and they still do it too much in Strange New Worlds, it's... I wanted to be fair, so I went back and I looked at a couple of episodes, thought about the movies. I said, did they speak like this ever on Star Trek? Well, yes, they did.
Once or twice.
Yeah. It was always a punctuation mark at the end of a movie or an episode. I remember in Amok Time, after this was when Kirk fought Spock and he was in his Ponfar and all that And he finds out that Kirk is alive, and he says, all right, Spock, let's go mine the store. This was at the end of the episode. It's just a little dinger at the end. Not during the episode, Very little of that during the episode.
Come on, Spock, let's go mine the store.
At the end of, excuse me, at the end of Star Trek: The Motion Picture, you have, after everything is done, and he finally goes, they finished the thing, and it's, they're not in the middle of a mess. And you can kind of smile and relax. He goes,
Mr. Sulu, ahead warp 1.
Warp 1, sir.
Heading, sir?
Out there. That away.
Or at the end of Undiscovered Country.
Course heading, Captain.
Second star to the right. And straight on till morning.
This was at the end of these things. It felt more earned, and it felt like a human moment that they were sticking in there, to show that things are going to be okay, or we're back to, life as usual. This has been resolved. And it's a little dot of humor they stick at the end of an episode.
Calmer circumstances.
Yeah. That isn't what they had in Strange New Worlds, Discovery, Picard. They all talk like that all day, but it's really not. It's not. It makes it sound cheap. It makes them sound less than what they are.
Yeah, we've just had it in Strange New Worlds.
Yeah.
In the one with the shepherds, the episode with the shepherds. Who's the girl with the shaven bit of head?
I can't be bothered to remember her name.
No, well, Pike says something, and she goes, "I think we've pissed them off."
They're launching torpedoes, Captain. I'm reading 3 inbound. We definitely pissed them off.
Yeah.
You wouldn't talk like that to your captain. And then he says to her, I can't remember what he says, but it's like torpedoes ready or whatever. She goes, "I'm already on it."
Yeah.
You wouldn't say that. Could you imagine anyone saying that to Picard?
I can, but
really, I could.
Well,
never.
let me give you an example. In Star Trek 6, right? They just get off the video, the communication with the Klingon Chancellor, and he's inviting him over for a dinner, a formal dinner on the Enterprise.
Yes.
Which he was kind of shocked that he accepted. So after the communication goes off, Chekhov mumbles under his breath, "Guess who's coming to dinner?"
Guess who's coming to dinner?
Right. Now, why do we accept that and we don't accept it in this Trek? And I think the answer is because the original Star Trek, and even through the movies, it took them to the last movie before that particular crew had kind of started introducing more informality, because these people have known each other for 25 years.
Yeah.
Right? Because we've watched them go through all this, and now they've gotten to a point where, we know they're older. We've seen them go through all this stuff together, and they've kind of earned that kind of little moments here and there, which they never overdo. It's appropriate even when they do it. But if you had Chekhov doing that on the first episode that he was in Star Trek, it would have been weird, cringy.
But again, it's these little ill-disciplined moments are during moments of relaxed environment. They're not battle-ready situations, which is what I'm saying about Strange New Worlds.
I agree. I mean, that's that. So it's a two-part problem. One is there's no familiarity with the crew yet. You can't have them acting like this yet.
No.
I mean, that's what Next Gen did so well. None of the crew really knew each other. They all had to kind of get to know each other in the first season. and there was much more formality with them, and you watch them grow and get closer. And it isn't until the last episode of the season that Picard finally comes in and sits down for a nice game of poker with them.
That's right.
It's Commander Riker.
Hello, Wes. Enjoying 5 Point Station?
Yes, sir.
I saw you. I thought I might join you for a stroll.
Actually, we were about to do some shopping.
I've been meaning to visit the mall myself.
Of course.
Lieutenant Yar of Security, sir. Captain Picard will see you on the battle bridge.
Riker, WT, reporting as ordered, sir. Is the viewer ready?
Welcome to the Enterprise, Commander Riker.
Is there a problem, sir?
No. I just thought that I might join you this evening. If there's room. I should have done this a long time ago.
You were always welcome.
So, 5-card stud, nothing wild. And the sky's the limit.
And you know that was to me, that's I watched that episode, and that moment is like, it gets me. Like, it's like, ooh, right here, man. Because it's like, all the shit they've been through throughout the series. You can't have them interacting that way on episode 3.
No. But you also had Riker was already familiar with what's her name? The Betazoid. Can I forget her name?
Troy.
I mean, they were lovers, but they were still very professional during combat situations or their working environment.
Yeah.
So they were able to switch it off. They're professionals, and I suppose civilians or out of uniform.
Yeah, and granted, granted, Pike is a much more relaxed style captain. Picard was much more formal.
Yeah.
He did not have any patience for any nonsense kind of stuff. And Kirk was somewhere in between. Sisko was his own animal, and God bless him for it. I love him.
Yeah, he was good.
Janeway was in a odd situation because they had no contact with the rest of civilization for the most part. So there was formality that had to be built a little bit more quickly there than maybe otherwise would have happened. But none of it felt as forced as it does here.
No.
Good, Michael Hutchinson. Good science fiction uses strange plans to do social commentary. I'm black on the left side. He's black on the right. I'm clearly superior. Peace between humans and Klingons parallels old rivals not being able to get along. Yes. Bad science fiction. Time travel back to modern day and then bitch about how bad we are in this era.
Yeah, spot on.
Spot on. Season premiere Strange New Turds is on YouTube for free. Do they really think we're going to watch it? They've put enough of material on YouTube to let us know the sheer contempt they have for us. Other than Doomcock and a few other people I've been following for years, I don't watch reviews on this drivel. Did you watch mine? The problem is that I really want to know who's paying to make it. There's a lot of money pushing this. They have the same people paying to give tenure to woke professors. You got a lot going on there. Paramount's a big company. This is their big IP. Star Trek is... what else do they got? Maybe Mission Impossible? I don't know what their big IPs are.
No, I don't know.
They lost Iron Man because they got it bought from... or they worked with Marvel on Iron Man. I don't remember. But most of their big IP, I think Star Trek is the big one. Although Sonic, I guess, I hear is doing well. But
yeah, apparently they're good.
Just getting started. But I don't know if that... the same people to give tenure to woke professors. You have to connect the dots with me on that one. The actress who plays the new Guinan made the complaint about inconsistency. She watched the original, and they ignored her and purposely did it wrong as subversion. Also seeing Rosa Salazar with that annoying back and forth with the blue shirt is exactly why I hate New Trek. I don't remember the annoying back and forth. But I mean, if they did tell her that, I think I don't know that the actors, especially, I mean, like Patrick Stewart can probably do whatever the hell he wants, but the other actors, I don't know how much say they have and what they're able to do and what they're not able to do. And especially a newcomer that played Guinan, who she was fine. I mean, I didn't have a problem with her per se. Just it sounds like they gave her direction to do one thing, and that's what she did. And I don't doubt it.
If she did watch all the old shows in prep for this, then good for her.
Yeah, at least she tried. I mean, give her that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, good for her.
The punk scene. 7 inexplicably becoming a lesbian. 7 declaring that she loves the 21st century because people are being nice to her for the first time.
Make it fast.
Thank you. Strangers don't usually like me.
You in 2024 should get a room.
It's all sickening woke BS. Is people being nice to her in the 21st century woke? I would think we'd be assholes.
I think
everything's anti-feminist.
I think he's implying that everyone was super nice to her in the future.
No,
and that
he's saying that she loves the 21st century because, and I do remember this because people are being nice to her for the first time. I'm like going, seems.
Yeah, but that's.
I'm not. It's a mixed message if that's woke. I don't know.
What no, Ian's bang right because in the 23rd century, wherever it is she comes from, everyone's super nice to her.
No, she's saying that they're not. She was saying they weren't nice to her in the 24th century because she was born.
That's what I'm saying. They literally rescued her and made her part of the family. She's just ungrateful.
That's, you have a point. Discovery is worse. Yes, it is. If a normal, straight, non-confused about his gender or sexuality man were to appear, they'd make him a villain or claim there was something deeply wrong with him. It's effed up and pathetic. Yeah.
Bang on, Ian.
Kurtzman said continuity is a waste of time. It has no value.
Figures.
Well, I mean, this is why if you don't have continuity, you don't have consistency in your storytelling. If you don't have consistency in your storytelling, then people are just not connecting. Guys, why can't you figure this out? CV talked about the Guinan in the past, why she wasn't there. So, yep, well done.
But he also mentions that yesterday's Enterprise guy knew something was wrong, but this guy doesn't for some reason. So that's a good point.
This is an interesting take. Devin Thunderstrike says, well, I hope you know now that Star Trek Picard is a complete vanity project for Patrick Stewart. He's an old man working out some issues. He's the primary reason Picard sucks. Hate to break it to you folks. He may have some truth in that. One of the stories that I heard, and again, I know I keep referencing them, I think this partly was Red Letter Media and some of the behind the scenes of Nemesis, is that Patrick Stewart really likes big off-road cars. And so they put that Argus vehicle in Star Trek Nemesis to run around the desert. So that Patrick Stewart could drive around in this vehicle. But the vehicle itself is absolutely senseless in the Star Trek universe than a shuttlecraft is. And it's like, and it makes no sense for Picard as a character, the guy who likes tea and Shakespeare, to also like redneck off-roading. So, now obviously he's in 81, so he's probably not gonna be doing that now, but he may have a point there that a lot of this is Patrick Stewart pushing stuff in his personal life onto a character that is not the same.
Could be. Like I said, I've lost a lot of respect for Patrick Stewart after this show, especially as apparently he's got hands in the scripts and everything else. I think he's, like I said before, he's just another Mark Hamill.
Not all Gen Xers are evil. I'm what they call a boomer. Okay. And then he says, this feels like a FBI profile session. Not that I would know about those. Dennis here, he put in a whole bunch of stuff. I'm not going to go through it all, but he's got a lot of random synapse firings, which are quite entertaining, and I appreciate every single one of them. This one they put in, I did like Star Trek 1966 to 2005, Simple Math. The hills the writers scurry to are actually the Hollywood Hills and are part of a 60-mile mountain range. I apologize on behalf of all life forms in Los Angeles for the writers hiding in the hills. They send their assistant to Trader Joe's on Vine Street, where a shop. Hollywood is more than fake writers. It's apparently assistants who shop at Trader Joe's as well.
I'll have to take his word for that.
Oh boy, I don't need a 2-hour YouTube video about why modern Star Trek is bad. Well, maybe I do. Bloody hell. Come to the dark side.
Yeah.
The core tenet of the Federation is diplomacy and the logical chess moves, smarts to win the day. The new track just steamrolls all over it, literally. Yeah, it's true.
Yep.
And then most of these I answered, but I wanted to get the rest of it. So let's, I don't want to spend too much time on this, but I want to thank everybody who watched this. Thank you for giving us a thumbs up. And remember, we are not just the YouTube channel. We are lastmovieoutpost.com, where you can get all the cool news now, movie news and everything good about film. So, getting all that out of the way, like, share, subscribe. Let's move on to Strange New Worlds.
Go on in.
You like it better than I do.
I like it so far, but then I quite like the first season of Discovery, so that's not saying too much.
So I'm going to talk a little bit about the first episode. I really disliked the second episode. Third was the best so far of all of Trek. But again,
I didn't like the third one.
It's here's my overall problem with Strange New Worlds. It is an improvement. Akiva Goldsman is running this. Now, let me talk about him. Because I've got issues with Akiva Goldsman. But he is not quite as woke I mean, he's been around for a while. He's definitely he's 59, he's a boomer, and he's written a lot of stuff. So let's get into his filmography here. The Client, that was a movie with Susan Sarandon, Tommy Lee Jones, and The Client was a kid.
Oh, yeah, I've seen that.
Legal thriller. It was directed by Joel Schumacher. Not too bad.
Okay.
Silent Fall. Richard Dreyfuss, Little Hamilton. I don't know much about it.
No.
Liv Tyler, debut role. Something about a boy with autism and the only one to witness double murder of his parents. And we do...
It rings a bell.
Batman Forever.
See you later. Move on.
A Time to Kill was the one with Matthew McConaughey, Sandra Bullock, and Sam Jackson.
Yeah, that was all right.
Yeah, it was all right. Batman and Robin.
Bye.
Quite. And those of you who don't know, it's quite possibly the worst superhero movie ever made. Lost in Space, not good.
Is that with Joey from Friends?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Not good.
Practical Magic. That was with Sandra Bullock and Nicole Kidman. Something about witches or comedy, romantic comedy. I don't know. A Beautiful Mind, the one with Crow.
Yeah, that was all right. Bit overrated, but still good.
Bit overrated, but good. I, Robot. Not a good adaptation of that. Cinderella Man, very good movie. Da Vinci Code, sucked. Didn't like it. I Am Legend.
I didn't mind it.
Yeah, it's just...
I think it would have been better without the CGI monsters.
Maybe. It's just there. It's just the thing. I don't know. He did the sequel to Da Vinci Code, Angels and Demons. Also terrible. No. Winter's Tale. He actually directed as well as wrote that one. It is quite possibly one of the worst movies I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, I don't think I've got past 20 minutes of it.
It is. It's with Colin Farrell and
Will Smith.
Yeah, Will Smith is Satan, and
yeah, the irony.
It's an absolute nightmare of a movie that makes no sense, and it just made me angry. I wrote a whole thing on it. Maybe I'll reprint it on the site one day. But years ago, it was just the worst thing I ever saw. He did one of the Divergent series.
Never watched them.
The Fifth Wave. I don't know. I didn't see it. Rings, which is the remake or redo of the Ring movie.
No.
Transformers: The Last Night, looking terrible. Dark
The Dark How's this guy getting work?
Okay, so when he does legal thrillers and when he does pieces that are much more human story driven type stuff, and I'm thinking of Cinderella Man, A Time to Kill, The Client, A Beautiful Mind. When he does those types of stories, he does all right.
Mm-hmm.
They're reasonable. When he gets into science fiction, superhero, things that could be an IP, that's where he goes off the rails. And he's not suited for those types of movies. Fantasy, sci-fi, none of them are good. None of them are done well because he doesn't have that mindset, the detail-oriented mindset that you need for a Star Trek. And so when I watch Strange New Worlds, I see a guy who, like, what is better about Strange New Worlds so far? Well, the male characters are not idiots and stupid. Mm-hmm. They're all generally competent and likable. That's nice. The female characters, except for number one, are mostly smug. Chapel is smug. That Khan descendant is smug.
Oh, she's horrible.
She's the worst. The shaved head lady is, I don't know, a little. I haven't got enough on her to make sure to know one way or the other. And then Uhura is, she's not smug yet, but she's overly awesome.
Yeah.
And then she is a little smug and like, I don't know if I want to be in Starfleet. I just don't know if this is my path. And like Spock rightly calls her out. It's like, if this isn't where you want to be, there's a lot of people that do, so get the hell out of the way.
Yeah,
I appreciated that. But I don't know. She seems miscast to me. She doesn't look or feel like Uhura.
No, that's the problem.
Chapel is kind of likable, but she's still really smug. The number one, though, Rebecca Romaine. Marry me, by the way. Marry me, Rebecca. I'll leave my wife. She's great. She's nuanced. She's got a thing with her genetics. She's an Illyrian, we find out. She's stronger, but we know why. But she's not. She's fallible. She makes mistakes. She's screwed up by not telling people. She's hiding the secret. She should have come clean a little bit quicker on when the disease came through. I mean, all this made her likable and cool to me. I liked it. So I think she's great. I like Pike. Ensign Mount a lot. He's very likable. Ethan Peck as Spock needs work. Nimoy is a presence in the original Trek. He just is a presence, an authoritative presence, just by his no-nonsense way of doing things. This Spock feels more like a Data trying to understand humanity,
Yeah.
That was a big difference between Data and Spock. Spock was like, you humans, you're emotional humans, you're all stupid. And Data was like, I want to be a real boy.
Yeah,
and that was the big difference. Neither of them had emotions. I mean, Spock did, but for all intents and purposes. But that was the big dividing line in their characters. Like Spock had no interest in being emotional and kind of had to learn that there was value in it, whereas Data is constantly trying to get something that he could never have until he finally did. And I'll tell you what, I think Brent Spiner, other than Data in any other role, is pretty insufferable. He's just really unlikable, isn't he?
Yeah. In real life as well, he's a douche.
Yeah. He's awesome as Data, but everything else, man, you just want to smack him. But at least the men aren't portrayed as idiots and weak, which I appreciate. But I still don't like there's a moment where Pike is, at the very beginning, Pike is in with his captain's booty call.
Right.
And he's making eggs or pancakes or something, and she comes in, and his communicators go off. She says, "Your phone is ringing." They would never say that.
No.
They don't say that. They would say your communicator is signaling or something. They would even those colloquialisms just wouldn't carry on. I don't think at 400 years. What did they say back in the 1600s? That we still say now, probably not much.
No.
I mean, there are some that do carry through, real anachronisms, hoisted by your own petard. Sometimes people still say that. They don't even know what the fucking petard is or why it's being hoisted. No. Or that it's a nautical
Sorry,
thing.
I'll have to just adjust my screen, guys, because I've got the sun shining right in my eyeballs. There you go.
We got these things called blinds. You might want to look into them.
No, I've got it's summer here. Well, it's nearly summer, so it's like really bright.
I'm just being shit. And then Pike makes a great speech at the end of the first episode that kind of echoes the going where no one has gone before. And it's well delivered. It's not bad, and it's undercut when Uhura goes, "Cool."
We explore. We seek out new life and new civilizations. We boldly go where no one has gone before.
Cool. Like a little girl.
Yeah.
I'm like, be professional. Don't do that. We don't need to see those moments, like all she had to do was kind of smile, nod, and turn back to her thing. That would have been more powerful than her going cool, like a teenager.
Yeah.
I know she's a cadet and all, and I just don't like that kind of stuff. So,
well, you're saying that she's a cadet. I remember in Deep Space Nine. What was it? Who was the little Ferengi dude? Nan was it? What's his name?
Yeah.
Nog.
No.
Well, he was a cadet. Yeah, he was very professional once he went to Starfleet Academy. Come back.
Yeah, he was aspiring to be like.
Yeah.
He kind of idolized Cisco, and he was aspiring to be at that level, right? So he was overdoing it sometimes.
Yeah.
But he had an idea. See that, it's interesting the way you put that. Nog is seeing Starfleet through a Ferengi's eyes, right? And so his impression of every human, everybody in Starfleet, is probably a lot more buttoned down than what it is, which is why he was overdoing it, right?
Yep.
So, but that's the impression that people in Starfleet will leave to others, especially other races. It's their best face, their most professional face. So when you see them, losing cool or pissed him off, things like that, it just comes across wrong and inappropriate. And it's kind of a shame. Now, the stories so far in New Trek, the first story was okay, but it was the details that brought it down. Like this whole thing with the changing their genome so that they look like the people, when we just use, even in the 24th century, they just used some prosthetics. I mean, it was surgical. Yeah. They said it was surgical, but it wasn't like it would wear off or something. That seems horribly inefficient and unreliable if it can wear off like that.
I'm gonna mess with your genome. You first.
And then the transporter has become this magic replicating machine where you beam down in your uniform and you have civilian clothing and your tricorder and your phaser if you need it and your communicator because it was sitting in the pattern buffer or something?
Local clothing patterns have been downloaded into the buffer as well as universal translators and tricorders. Confirming no weapons?
Confirmed. That's ridiculous.
Oh, what?
Yeah,
Okay.
listen to it. It's like everything's loaded. I had to watch it. I watched it this morning and I noticed, I was like, what? That's not how that works. It doesn't need to work like that. That's like unnecessary to show how magical everything is.
Yeah.
But that doesn't have any real sense in it if you know enough about how transporters work. Enough goes wrong with those fucking things. You don't want to be loading phasers into it, you know?
That was one of Bones' skepticisms, wasn't it, about using the transporter because it was unreliable, where he thought it was unreliable.
Right.
Bones hated the transporters. So the fact that it can now materialise all sorts of crazy
To be
crap.
fair, Bones saw enough shit that he'd be like, he's got a point. You know,
Yeah.
one time it split Kirk into his evil self, his good self. Another time we got onto the, before I beamed onto the new ship, 2 of our people got turned into blobs.
They're losing their pattern.
Oh no, they're forming.
That's right, yeah.
Screaming blobs. You saw stuff happen. Oh, one time we ended up in a parallel universe. That sucked.
True.
So he's got a point. But then they beamed the hypospray, but just the contents of the hypospray right into Spock.
Yeah.
It's up to you now, Kyle.
I said step away.
I was like, wait, what?
I know.
If you just said prosthetics, you wouldn't have to have these manufactured nonsense. Because I hate the when persons try to get past security cliche, and the first time it doesn't work, and it gets really tense, and then the second time it does, and everything's fine. The only cliche I hate more than that one is when the plane goes out of frame.
Right.
It crashed, and then it pops up back into frame. Oh, it's fine. Those 2 cliches need to be outlawed, in my opinion. That's a law that's an authoritarian law I will actually support. Screenwriters are not allowed to use these 2 tropes ever again.
It's used in everything. I'll give you mine. I'll tell you what. I don't know if it's an American thing. It goes back to when you said about Pike was having breakfast with his captain girlfriend in that show. He just cooked her this massive breakfast from scratch. And she sits down and eats about a mouthful of it, and then she goes, right, gotta go.
She buzzes out.
Do you do that?
This is actually fucking work. I didn't use a replicator, you bitch. Get back here. Eat the fucking food. I'm going to shove it down your goddamn gullet.
Every film or program I see, you always get someone walks into a bar, orders a drink, has a mouthful, and then leaves. And you're like, you just paid for that.
It's like, yeah, I get it. I mean, what do you want to do? Watch them eat the entire damn thing? No.
Don't order a drink. Just go, I ain't got time. I ain't going to be here for 30 seconds. It annoys me.
Yeah.
At least cut to the scene where she finished their dinner and then they're having a conversation. That's my trick. That's the thing that winds me up.
I think I keep looking at this though. Like the last story was pretty good with you got a disease running around on the ship. You got 2 crew members trapped down there. There's a bit of a mystery. It's all good. It's all fine. I didn't have any problems with it. But is it anything we hadn't seen before? Not really. Other than a little bit of character development for number 1. That's really all you get out of that last episode. And it wasn't. It was a very competent, good, reasonably good episode. The colloquialisms and the nonsense was kept to a minimum. And there was a problem. I understood how they wanted how to solve the problem, what was going on. There was a bit of a mystery with number 1, which was the best part about the whole thing, and we find out a little bit about her past. And it was fine. It was a fine, reasonably fine episode. The problem is that it just wasn't anything I haven't seen before in the 25, 30 years of Trek that have already been out. Right? 40 years of Trek that have already been out. I mean, it's nothing. What are they bringing new to the table besides special effects?
I'm cutting it some slack because we're only 3 episodes in, and I feel like it is on the right path. And like you said, it can't be easy coming up with constantly new stuff.
It's on the path of not pissing me off.
At least it's Star Trek. Unlike the other crap, that Discovery and certainly Picard. At least this feels like a Star Trek.
It feels more like Star Trek. It seems to be trying to hit the right buttons. They still need to work on some of the details and everything. They still need to make it a little bit more formal and that kind of stuff. But I also, I feel bad a little bit about complaining about this because we were complaining about, that Star Trek needs to be more episodic, and they're doing all the right things,
Yeah, I think so.
And I'm still complaining because I'm like going, okay, yeah, but all right, then what's new about this show? Next Gen brought a lot new. For one thing, Star Trek, the original series, did nothing for the side characters that weren't named Kirk, Spock, and McCoy. Did nothing for them. Next Gen did. Next Gen expanded out that team and gave us a lot more in-depth character development on people other than Data, Riker, and Picard. We got to know Worf. We got to know Crusher. We got to know,
Troy.
Geordi, Troy, all of them, right? We got to know Wesley, and that's why they kicked him off the show. Yeah, we know him. We don't like him. Then you get to Deep Space Nine. What do they bring in new there? Well, for one, they're on a space station. 2, there's this whole religious aspect with Bajor and the wormhole aliens.
Yeah.
3, you've got all this, I say international, but I guess quadrant, all this intrigue between these different factions with the Romulans and the Klingons and the Dominion and Bajor and the Cardassians and the aftermath of the Cardassians. There's a lot of things that they dived into there that they could because they were in one place all the time,
Yeah.
Voyager, again, I think the reason why Voyager kind of failed because they were trying to do what had already been done. Their only hook was they're stranded, but that they didn't really do anything with that. Like they had 8 million shuttles. They kept blowing up shuttles. How they keep getting new shuttles? If it's such a hardship to be that far away, how come they never had any resource problems? They would have resource problems if they wanted to do a story about it, but in general, they didn't, right?
I liked Voyager. I know it gets a lot of shit. I liked it.
It's got some good episodes, but it just didn't. I can't say that Voyager is anywhere near the quality of Deep Space Nine or Next Gen or the original series.
I'm gonna shoot myself in the foot here. I kind of enjoyed Voyager more than I did DS9.
I'd go back to DS9. I really like they brought in so many interesting side characters. Garrick.
I only watched all of them about 2 months ago.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much intrigue and so much stuff going on there with all these different people. It reminds me a little of The Simpsons. Like, it starts out, it's about The Simpsons, but after a while, it's like you start knowing about this amazing plethora of characters that live in Springfield.
Yeah.
Deep Space Nine was kind of like that. You start out with the main cast, but then they started bringing in all these different characters, not just Gul Dukat, but like the guy that took over the Cardassian Empire.
Yes, yeah.
And then you had
I don't know his name.
Garrick, the Taylor. You had all the Ferengis.
It was brilliant.
The Ferengi and all the intrigue going on there. You had Nan and Nog, and it kept growing and building this huge world, and I loved it for that. Enterprise prequel problems. It only started to get good in the last season, and unfortunately, then it got canceled.
Do you know what? The cast never gelled to me.
They didn't. Not as much.
They just couldn't quite get it. And I think that's some of the stories. It was. I think Star Trek's notorious for having 1 to 2 slow seasons, apart from the original trilogy, the original series. But
yeah, but it couldn't.
They never gelled. They just felt like missions.
Enterprise couldn't have 2 to 3 slow seasons because by then you were having Trek fatigue.
Yeah,
and of course, I look back. I've rewatched or watched Enterprise finally. Because I kind of fell out of it. I just kind of gave up on it. I went back and watched it. I'm like, the show ain't that bad. It's pretty good.
No,
because now I have something really horrifying to compare it to. And so yeah, so I don't know. Strange New Worlds. I'm on the fence. I feel like it's schizophrenic, and that for everything it does good, it does something bad as well. That makes me shake my head, and I'm trying to be fair about it. I'm trying to say, okay, we got different showrunners here. Yeah, Kurtzman is still in charge, but Goldsman is the guy running it, and Goldsman isn't a lunatic. I however, question his ability to do some of these things based on his track record.
He's, because you mentioned him, I think it was yesterday you mentioned him to me. He's the guy, he also done Fringe, didn't he?
Yeah, let me check his TV. He did, but Fringe was also a J.J. Abrams thing.
I loved.
He was a writer. He wrote 18 episodes.
Okay.
And he only directed 1. And but he's also been working on Discovery, and he's been working on. He worked on that Teen Titans series.
Okay, that wasn't too bad though.
I didn't like it. And then of course he did 5 episodes of Picard. Yeah. He's only done 1 episode of Strange New Worlds. Which one was it?
He certainly hit a miss.
Which one did he do? Which is the writer that he did? He did the first episode.
Okay.
The last episode was Akilah Cooper and Bill Wolkoff, who I'm not familiar with them. It was directed by Leslie Hope. She played Terry Bauer on 24, and I think she was playing the Borg Queen, if I'm not mistaken.
Ah, right.
I could be wrong. Let me check. I might not be right. No, she didn't. It's somebody else. She was somebody else was on 24, but I don't think it's the same person.
Okay.
But she's. Oh, I know. I think she was.
No, the Borg Queen from the Picard. She was in 24.
She was, but so was Leslie Hope.
Okay.
Leslie Hope played. I'm looking for her. See if I can find her. She was. Oh yeah, she played the wife of Terry of Jack Bauer, and she got killed in the first season. Right. But anyway, so she directed this one. I don't know that much about her. Akilah Cooper. Let's check her Wikipedia page. She was. Let's see. She's wrote Tron Uprising, some stuff of Grimm, American Horror Story. She wrote some of Luke Cage. Jupiter's Legacy.
That's quite good.
Yeah, I actually liked it. She did some work on the Avengers Assemble animated series, which I haven't really watched. The 100, The Witches of East End, her movies. I don't recognize any of them. So, but it seemed to be a. I don't think Strange New Worlds is overtly woke or anything like that. There's certainly some things. Yeah. We're 3 episodes in. But there certainly are some things that are positive about it. There is a lot that's still negative about it. I still don't think it holds a candle to the best of Trek.
Not yet. But I'm quietly optimistic that it's making all the right moves.
I mean, they're doing I know they're doing a Pon farr episode.
Nice, because she's well fit, that bird who's playing Spock's wife in it.
Yeah, but I rewatched Amok Time. And Amok Time, first of all, nobody knows what the hell Ponfar is, right? He's very private about it.
Spock, I'm asking you, what's wrong?
I need rest. I'm asking you to accept that answer.
Captain, lock me away. I do not wish to be seen.
I cannot. No Vulcan could explain further.
There's a growing imbalance of body functions. As if in our bodies, huge amounts of adrenaline were constantly being pumped into our bloodstreams. Now, I can't trace it down in my biocomps. Spock won't tell me what it is.
Second of all, it's not specifically said, but it seems to be that T'Pring and Spock have not seen each other since they were kids.
Marriage party? You said T'Pring was your wife.
By our parents' arrangement. A ceremony. While we were but 7 years of age. Less than a marriage, but more than a betrothal.
That's right, yeah.
So
it's already breaking canon then.
So it seems to be breaking. Now, it doesn't, it implies it. It doesn't necessarily mean that what is happening now couldn't happen. Okay. But T'Pring, I didn't like the way T'Pring and Spock were talking to each other. It felt like what somebody who doesn't like Star Trek would think is clever writing for Vulcans.
Okay.
And I just thought it just came across just bad.
Query.
Response.
Query.
Response. Querying.
Yes, querying.
Query.
I was beginning to think you would never ask. Vulcans are so formal.
Aren't we, though?
Bit too cold, wasn't it?
No, it was too warm in some ways, but...
Oh, really? I thought it was cold and
like,
hot.
I don't need to see query, response, query. Vulcans don't talk like that. It's ridiculous.
No, they're not computers.
No. And that's just as like, that's like somebody who doesn't like Star Trek trying to write what they think Vulcans would be like and thinking it's clever or cool. And it's not. It's really, really bad.
Well, I think it's on the right path, and I'm going to have to finish up soon, Yoda. But I just want to say that I messaged you. You know, there's
I'm skeptical.
There's
and
rumours.
Suspicious.
There's rumours that there's a I can't believe this, a Seven and Raffi spin-off show.
The USS Box Eater.
Well, look, if they're going to go for the whole continue down this eco warrior path. I've read that they're going to go to planets and investigate the environment.
I can't believe that they think that those are the two characters. Like, if it's Seven from Voyager, yes, this is a completely different character.
I'd watch that 24 hours a day.
Raffi is just there's nothing. She's just horrifyingly bad. Seven from this series is a completely different character. She's Seven in name only. And you know what? Quite frankly, so is Picard.
Yeah.
Well, he's an android now, so... He's an android now, so fuck it. He's not the same guy.
Well, if Raffi and Seven go to these different planets to research environmental disasters, and I heard that a lot of it's going to be spent on the ocean floor, and apparently it's going to be called Star Trek Muff Divers. You can have that one.
I don't want it. I ain't watching. I'm out.
Edit it out.
I'm out.
Edit it out. No, I can't see anyone in their right mind would green like that.
I couldn't. Yeah, and yet Discovery's on season 4.
5. Apparently, got season 5 coming.
It's got a 5 coming.
Yeah.
I don't know who's watching. I don't know. I'm just shocked at watching people just talk about. Yeah, this is the last thing I want to bring up, and I thought about this too. there is a legitimate reason to update these things for the younger generation. One, the older generation is going to die out. I mean, people that watched Star Trek in the 60s and 70s, we're well past our 50s, some of us. We're not buying, we're not the target demographic for ads and things like that. I understand the business behind it all. But alienating the diehards with something that is not challenging to the young people, but instead feeds them this woke nonsense that lets them virtue signal and feel good and doesn't challenge any of their ideas at all in some ways. You said it yourself that this isn't going to last. This is not going to be remembered. Nobody's going to be rewatching this like we rewatch Next Generation. And I understand the young that, like I know people my age don't like to watch black and white movies, things like that. I understand that updating these things for a newer generation, a newer audience is not a bad thing if you keep the core ideals, the things that are objectively good throughout time in there. And they're not doing that. No. And I worry that, these kids that they're being spoon-fed all this stuff. I mean, you see the dimmest among us, they parade out in Handmaid's Tale outfits, like, and think that they're brilliant or something. It's like, it's the worst, stupidest thing I've ever seen. I'm like, oh, guys, you need to read more stuff. I would absolutely be okay with the Handmaid's Tale in school if Thomas Sowell's Basic Economics for the Common Man was also required reading,
Oh, right. Never heard of it.
Thomas Sowell, most brilliant economic mind of our time.
Oh, right.
If you really want to understand stuff at a level that is not full of formulas and stuff, he's the best. But my point is that, they feed them this feel-good emotional stuff that, I mean, it's like going to church, you sing your songs, you say your prayers, you feel good about yourself, you go home, right? Good churches will actually challenge whether or not you're doing the right thing and that kind of stuff, but a lot of them don't. A lot of them are just as phony as any other cult. And now the new cult is this woke nonsense. And I'm not even talking politically, I'm talking culturally and everything, where it requires the least amount of effort. All you have to do is obey and bend the knee, and we're going to put out entertainment that will feed that to you. And that's not only pissing off us diehards who understand, because like that one comment that I read where I say, I think Tim Pool is right. It says the right understands the left and the left does not understand the right. They don't understand where we're coming from. And not only that, they believe things that are patently untrue.
Yeah.
And or it's like they're stuck in 1950 forever. They don't understand that the way things have changed now, where people are now. And this entertainment, this Star Trek is kind of reflecting that in a lot of ways. Is Strange New Worlds a divergence from that? I don't know yet. I don't know.
Like I said, I'm optimistic. I think it's making all the right moves, but I thought Discovery Season 1 was quite good, and look what happened to that. So we'll see. I'm not judging it. I'm just going to go along for the ride and see where it takes me. You never know. Give it 6 months' time, mate. We might be sitting here doing a Strange New World and slacking it right off.
Well, that's if the people want it. And if you do want it, you let us comment down below. You seem to want us to subject ourselves to this. This is why I'm now 2 steps away from being a full-blown alcoholic, so thank you for that. But we will continue to watch Strange New Worlds, and we'll let you know if what we think. If you're enjoying this kind of content, we are happy to do it. And it's nothing else, Eggy. I just enjoy having these therapy sessions with you.
No, they're good, mate. They are good. And I'm going to the pub now because it's 5 to 7. And like I said to you earlier, my wife and all the other ladies have all gone for a glamping weekend, and all the blokes are going over to the pub. So while the hens are away,
you drink yourself into a coma.
Well,
hey, if you're not blackout drunk, you're not doing it right.
Well, exactly. Listen, we're English. We know how to drink.
Yeah. Well, it's been great. Thank you very much. And as for the rest of you, again, this is lastmovieoutpost.com. We are the cool news now. We have everything cool about film, including streaming reviews, movie reviews, trailers, and upcoming news. So please visit us. Of course, give this a like, share, and subscribe. And we really mean that. We hope that we can kind of grow and be a different voice in the wind than your standard corporate news organizations or entertainment news organizations that pretty much just say the same thing and don't give you any different perspectives at all. And that's the point of all this, and that's what we're hoping to do. We don't expect you to agree with everything we say, but we do hope that you at least understand there are different things out there. Eggy has a giant plane going by.
I can hear that. Yeah. Putting the chemtrails out tonight.
That's right. Well, hey, gotta get your mind control somewhere. So, any final words from you, Eggy?
No, apart from tune in every Sunday for the live stream where people will be discussing the week's latest news, which will either be I might be making a guest appearance or Yoda's there with not George Lucas or Sean. And what time is that? It's 12 p.m. your time, Yoda?
Yes, 12 noon Central Time. We'll be all four of us will be on tomorrow.
We will.
Hopefully, it won't be a complete and utter chaotic catastrophe. We'll see.
We'll see.
Yeah.
It's been a woke week. We got lots to talk about.
Yeah. But the big one is everything, everywhere at once, and I think we got a lot to talk about on that one. All right, so thank you very much for watching. We will continue this with Strange New Worlds, and if you want it, we will do some more. Until then, we will see you on the next stream.